So step one, we are going to break it apart and slow it down. For real. And I know, you've heard this suggestion 1,000 times, but there's a reason for that, I promise. The fact is, even though we know we should really practice slower and chunk a piece apart, most of us have a tendency to want to work on too large a chunk at a time, to want to keep going past that chunk, to just keep playing, and also to work too fast, too close to performance tempo at the very beginning. Sometimes doing those things gives us this illusion of accomplishing more because you're working on 12 or you're playing 15 measures instead of focusing intently on 2 or 3. And maybe you feel like you've gotten more done because you're only 30 clicks under tempo instead of starting at 50, 60, or 100 clicks under tempo. Of course, when we do this, all we end up with is frustration, with a lack of consistent improvement and true progress, and we end up spending way more time in the end doing it this way because we want to feel like in each session we're doing more. But at the end of the week, we don't have as much to show for our time as we would like. This is one of those times where to go fast, you really need to go slow. Go slow to go fast. Sometimes at the end of these practice sessions, we still feel like everything is shaky and inconsistent. It's not as solid or well known as we truly want. That is not the way to practice. To combat this and to actually attain real progress session to session and week to week, we instead need to break something down, break it apart, and slow it down enough to make it easy. Easy, not a little less tricky, easy. If that means one measure at a time at half tempo or slower, then that is your place to start. If one measure feels tricky at half tempo, then why on earth would we start with 4 measures at 3/4 of performance tempo? And yet this is exactly what I see all the time. And it's absolutely what I was guilty of for many, many years. Okay? So you're not alone. But kicking up tempo is really nowhere near as big a deal, and it happens much more quickly if you have all of the basics, your notes, rhythms, and articulations, really well in hand. We want to learn small sections slowly and with tremendous accuracy, not larger sections slightly too quickly and with several repeated errors. Not the goal, okay? You may even be saying to yourself, yeah, I already do this, Joelle, I've got this covered. And maybe that's true. Maybe you really do take things in very tiny chunks and slow it way down and don't practice beyond the specific area you're working on. But over the years, I have found that most students are just starting off too big and too fast, making it more difficult and frustrating for themselves than is really necessary. Frustration and making life more difficult, that should never be the goal. Instead, for each piece, I will outline how I recommend breaking the etude apart, the order I'd recommend learning those individual chunks in, and how to practice each chunk effectively. Then I'll talk about how to combine all of those separate chunks to end up with one polished, finished, performance-ready piece. I'll also start the practice tempo very slowly for each piece in the practice videos so you can easily follow along. However, if that's too fast for you, if it's not easy, just hit pause on the video and slow your own metronome down or slow yourself down if we're in pattern practice to whatever tempo makes it easy to learn correctly. Of course, if the tempo I'm working at truly is extremely easy for you, same thing then, just hit pause and take the pattern or method we're employing and kick up your tempo on your metronome just a little bit, preferably kind of a gradual increase. Then we'll talk about how and when to increase tempo and what else you should be thinking about while you're repping for speed and comfort. From now on, there will always be another goal in your mind with each rep beyond just getting faster. We no longer rep for speed alone. Okay, the big takeaway, remember, small sections, very slowly with great accuracy. That's the goal.